too, and you touched on it a little, but as an entrepreneur, like, how were you so agile last year? Everybody was hit with COVID. Nobody had a book. You are
Yeah.
in event planning. You're in the event planning business in large part, right? You're losing venues. Everything's unpredictable. What was
Yeah.
it like to be Jon Thomas 11 months ago?
Yeah, it was tough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, ironically, at the end of 2019, a few of my board members, and all of our board members, like most boards start, they're all people I'm personally friends with or related to,
Mm-hmm.
people I really trust,
Mm-hmm.
that have expertise in certain areas. So two of our board members, who happen to be two of my groomsmen, we had a conversation about like making sure we hold some money back from our large beneficiary gift that we give, just to have a reserve, for, I'll never forget, one of our board member Mark said, a black swan event, and I had never heard of that, and I'm like, oh, but I'm like, what the hell could that be? Like, even if, like, I remember one year, our rally tournament was a week before a big hurricane that hit. And I remember thinking, oh my God, if that hurricane hit a week earlier, that would have just mangled our whole tournament. And could you
Mm-hmm.
imagine if we had to cancel an event? Oh my God, it would have been the end of the world. And meanwhile, I have 10 other successful events that year. Like, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal at all. We would have rescheduled it for the end of the tour and did
Mm-hmm.
it 8 weeks later or something, like now it seems foolish. But then, like, I couldn't imagine some sort of event um, that would shut us down for like a year, like that could
Mm-hmm.
shut down every event.
Right.
So I remember them like throwing it out, but I'm like, yeah, I get it. And then I went ahead and gave as much money as I possibly could to
Mm-hmm.
Alex's lemonade stand, and didn't leave a reserve behind for us, because, in early 2020, we got our San Diego tournament and our Phoenix tournament. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
be building a lot of revenue in that January timeframe anyways. We're going to be fine. Yeah. And then
Man.
it all came crashing down in mid-March. At the end of March was supposed to be our Connecticut tournament, so we were basically 2 weeks away from our Connecticut tournament when we canceled that event. And then obviously, as time passed, every event got canceled, except
Mm-hmm.
for our showcases. So
Mm-hmm.
in April and May, it was really touch and go.
Mm-hmm.
Now you start to calculate, how much money do we have in the bank? How
Right.
many payrolls can we make?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you also can't just sit there and watch the money leave the bank account.
Sure.
Like, you got to
Sure.
do something.
Yeah, activate. Yeah.
So we thought of a lot of different things. Number one, we launched our Podium, which is our monthly recurring giving program,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that had been in the back burner forever.
Mm-hmm.
But and last year at that time was probably the worst time to launch a program like this, but it was the most necessary time for
Sure.
us to do that. And that was basically activating our most passionate supporters, my family members, my close friends,
Mm-hmm.
all those people who really want to make sure that Tapcancerout prevails
Sure.
through all of that, to start giving on a monthly basis. And we weren't asking them to break the bank or whatever,
Right.
the same amount that they pay for Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, provide in a steady gift to Tapcancerout. So we just have some predictable monthly recurring revenue that we
Sure.
can start to work off of. And, it's rewarding for them in a lot of different
Mm-hmm.
ways. So we launched that program. And once we realized that there was no chance we were going to be hosting a tournament in its traditional sense in
Right.
2020, we started looking at the showcases and trying to figure out, okay, can we shift those
Mm-hmm.
and host them in a way that's as safe as possible? I mean,
Right.
we can't ever promise to mitigate 100% of risk. In the
Mm-hmm.
end, there's two people that are on the mat laying on top of
Mm-hmm.
each other, who probably don't know each other. So, but we can do everything outside of that.
Right,
We can make
right.
as safe as possible. Make
You
sure
put in so many controls.
no spectators, plastic barriers,
Yes, yeah.
social distancing, check in outside.
Right.
So if we could do that, we could still host, the showcases. And, we had a full showcase card ready for Connecticut. So, we moved that to August, and then we actually kept our showcase schedule as it is. Ironically, it happened to lay out in every other week increments. And we actually added a Charlotte event, so a Charlotte showcase. So a lot of our Charlotte fundraisers who had started to fundraise for that tournament could then pivot and do the showcase. So we did that. And in the fundraising, typically we tell our showcase competitors that they can fundraise, they can sell tickets, they can do both, but they can't do none. So some people will just sell a lot of tickets for us and not really fundraise, and which is fine. For this, with no spectators, we asked everybody, fundraising is going to be critical here. We asked everybody to raise at least 400. We had over 90% participation. I mean, I can't force people to do it, and I'm not going to check them off the card. But we had great participation in that. And then the average fundraiser for our Connecticut tournament was over 1,000. And for the rest of them were around 800. So the average raised doubled what the minimum was. The typical fundraiser just at any Tapcancerout tournament is about $450. So the performance of these fundraisers was phenomenal. And I think it was a testament to the donors. And while, a lot of people, I had a number of competitors say that they were hesitant about joining the showcase only because they didn't think anyone would give to their fundraiser. And I said, number one, if they don't, that's fine. I just want you to put the effort forth. That's all I really care about. If ultimately no one in your network can give, so be it. But just put forth the effort. However, last year, people were struggling, of course, but people wanted to feel good. They wanted a reason to feel good. And we didn't have a lot of reasons to feel good. So just donating $50 to someone's fundraiser made you feel good. And a lot of nonprofits couldn't really operate last year. And so there actually weren't a lot of opportunities to give in the typical way that there would be. So people were looking to give, to make a difference, to feel good. So we had so that the donor response was really well, and that sort of played out in all of our metrics, and just the average donation going up, the average fundraise going up, all that sort of stuff. So pivoting those events were crucial, and we were in adding one. And so we were able to do that. And so that was great. And then the third was, we had all of these fundraisers who had already started to fundraise for our tournament. How can we pivot them to continue their fundraising and have them sort of involved in an event, and not an event where we all gather together in a big group, and not even an event where they gather together as a school, because even that was not something that we wanted to encourage. So I thought about it a little bit, and actually one day on the Peloton, I came up with the idea for Global Grappling Day. So this single day where everybody rolls for 1 hour. That was just the basic idea. And the 1 hour came from, so in getting my black belt, you have to go through what we call the gauntlet, which is 1 hour straight going against a fresh black or brown belt every 2 or 3 minutes or something. You get one break at a half hour to drink some water. And that was brutal and miserable, but I survived it. And so if I survived 1 hour going against all these black and brown belts who all didn't hold back whatsoever, the point is to brutalize this brown belt and to embarrass them and to make them as miserable as possible. So if I could do that, anyone can roll for an hour with their buddy. First you flow roll for 20 minutes as it is, and then you can get into it, whole thing. And so it had to be long enough that it was a little tough and out of the norm, but not like a 24-hour roll or something
Sure.
like that, something crazy. So, you know, it had to be feasible. And so that was the format, and we
Mhm.
pitched it to our ambassadors first.
Mhm.
They loved it. They
Mhm.
all got on board, and then we emailed it out to all of our registrants for all the
Mhm.
tournaments that year, the people who had registered by the time, you know, that we had to cancel their event. And even some of our showcase competitors
Mhm.
got on board and did the Grapplethon as I'm sorry, Global
Mhm.
Grappling Day as well. So they had
Mhm.
fundraised prior for their showcase and then kept going for Global
Mhm.
Grappling Day. I didn't really know what to set the goal at.
Mm.
I just 100,000 seemed like a nice round number,
Mhm.
but ultimately we raised 276,000, I think, in total. About 20 of that was moved over from other tournaments,
Mm.
but in total, Global Grappling Day generated about 250,000 new donations
Awesome.
that weren't attributed to any tournament, and that
Mhm.
would not have happened if
Mhm.
we didn't set up this event. So
Yeah.
that was a little bit of luck, you know, a little bit of light bulb moment,
Mhm.
um, but it very much saved us
That's
and
amazing. Yeah.
allowed us to continue throughout the year and to still have this great sum of money that
Mm.
we're holding on to. We haven't given it to our beneficiaries. We're holding on to it to make sure we get through this year, but we'll
Sure.
have
Sure.
it to add on top of what we give in
Mm.
2021. So hopefully we give a really, really big gift at the end of
Mhm.
2021. So yeah, you know, it was just being able to pivot in those
Mm.
ways with the podium and with the showcases and then in Global
Mhm.
Grappling Day. But also, you know, I was having weekly check-ins with our board. You know, I really needed to lean on my support system
Mm.
to help us through this and to come up with ideas. I didn't come up with all these ideas by myself. And
Mhm.
certainly any idea that I came up with, I needed their help to sort of
Sure.
frame and blow out and stuff like that. So,
Mhm.
and it was just, you know, I was very nervous, and it was nice to check in with these people who had
Mhm.
our best interest at heart, and
Exactly.
really cared about making sure that Tapcancerout survived.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we did it. We did it.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
2021 is still going to be a unique year. It's not like
Mhm.
everything's going back to normal. So we have to find
Mhm.
ways we're going to try to host our tournaments, but do them incredibly safely. You know, we haven't
Mhm.
hosted a tournament like this yet. So we'll see how it goes. But,
Mhm.
it's, hopefully the worst is behind us, and we'll
Mhm.
continue to make sure that we're hosting our events as safely